You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can look at this image, this is Deborah's image. I just want to crop it so that there's no distraction. So when you're done with your composition, you need to look at few things, very, very important things. Is your work looking flat? Is your tone distributed properly? So one of the easiest way is you go to image, adjustment, brightness and contrast. If you want to write these down, you can write it down. You can make your work more interesting. You can see that the work is looking more dramatic and interesting than what was before. Does that make sense? So this is very important, that how does your work look in your final, what you call, submission, or before you submit. So adjustment, brightness and contrast, you can go from here and reduce it and make it a little more interesting so that eyes go to your main focal area, focal point. This is one way of doing that. The other way of doing that is going to image, adjustment, levels. Now I don't know whether you have done Photoshop before. Levels are also important. Level controls your black and white area, your mid-tone area, and your highlight areas. Does that make sense? So levels are another way of doing this thing. You can also select certain areas, and you can see that each of these works in different ways. You see that how it changes with the eyedropper tool. So each of these eyedropper tools have different functionality, and so you can always cancel it. This is one way of doing that. The one that I really like, which is really easy and much more control, is called the curve. So curve is basically, it varies from, you can do it from this way, you can raise it up like this, or you can click on this diagonal line and you can change. You can see the curve changing. Do you see that?
Where is this also in adjustment?
Yeah, this is also in image, adjustment, and curves. It's best that you write, if you're new to Photoshop, or if you have not worked with curves and adjustment and other things, you need to look at this, because is your work flat, or does it have some tone and all, but can you make it better? Can you improve on it? Does that make sense? So it is very important that you understand how the tone values and the contrast, where your eyes are going, how do you control that. It all comes in curves and levels and brightness and contrast, how much you've done. After you're finished, you think you're finished, can you make it more interesting? Can you make it better than what it is? How much you want to focus on? You can see that the focus changes. Do you see that? Just by changing the contrast, and your whole work changes. Does that make sense? So this is very, very important that you keep track of this. You can always cancel it and see your original piece. You can always, like I said, Command J and create a layer and then work on it. So